Hello, yes, indeedy. Welcome up, everyone. Welcome to another episode of G Boot 2786. This is Gavin Richard. Welcome to Gavin Richard Presents. Wherever you are, whoever you are, I hope you're having a lovely day. Enjoying this weekend very early, like myself. I'm out here at home, just chilling. Hope everybody's well. Got somebody in the chat room, but usually they don't like to comment very early. Whoever is in the chat room right now that's watching, thank you for joining me. We're gonna wait for a few more people to come in for a few minutes. Let's see. Y'all hadn't seen me in a while. I haven't been feeling too good, and I've just been busy with work. And I decided to just get some fresh air. I'm gonna do this video outside for the first time in a long time that I did this. Uh, we're gonna be starting our discussion in a little bit. So hold on a second. Got one person. If you're in there, why don't you chat and say something? Let's see. All right. I'm gonna wait too long because I know you guys are waiting. Some of you guys are busy. Oh, what's going on, Squeaky G? Miriam Israel, hello. Yeah, thank y'all. Uh, yeah, there is some land. I'll just show y'all. Excuse the patio furniture, but this is out in New Orleans East. It was actually nicer long time ago before Katrina and everything. Really, the city has let they've well not the city, just well the city has, but really, things have were different. That actually used to be a golf course, believe it or not, at one point. So yeah, I like being on the water. So at any rate, guys, wanted to do this video. So you guys probably have heard about what's going on recently. All this stuff with the NFL. We got with Kaepernick. You've got with Myles Garrett and Mason Rudolph. The fight that happened last week, and I'll talk about that a little bit. But today's topic. Well, I was watching a clip from ESPN's First Take, and Terrell Owens, Hall of Fame wide receiver, T.O., as we all know him, was on ESPN's First Take. He was invited as a guest, and they were talking about Colin Kaepernick. Now, recently, Stephen A. Smith has come under fire, and you guys know how I feel about Stephen A. Smith, probably. I've done videos on him. I think the guy is an out-and-out coon, for sure. And part of the reason why I say that it's not because he's not entitled to his opinion. Of course, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. Everybody's not going to see things the way you see them. I can respect that. The problem that I have with a Stephen A. Smith is that he has a history of speaking down on black men. And in particular, when he's on ESPN First Take, he has a big platform where obviously he's paid by the Disney Corporation because Disney owns, a lot of people don't know this, but Disney owns ESPN. They own ABC, and ESPN and ABC are all part of the same umbrella. That's why when you see the basketball games on ABC, you'll find anchors from ESPN on ABC there sometimes. So they rotate it up, especially when it's prime time, and also uh, you know, when Monday Night Football was on ABC, remember they moved it to ESPN's. Sometime I want to say like in early 2000s, 2007, 2008, it moved because they ended the contract with ABC. But ABC was acquired by Disney Company, and Disney owns practically every major. It's basically a monopoly. Disney owns uh, you know, 20th Century Fox now, which is a major studio company. Disney also owns the rights to The Simpsons and National Geographic. And if you have Disney Plus, you'll see things like that, stuff like I noticed. But anyway, to get back with Stephen A. Smith, uh, Stephen A. Smith has had a history of speaking out on black men. Never forget the time when he went at Kevin Durant and told Kevin Durant, "You do not want it with me. You do not want it with me." When Kevin Durant called him a liar about saying certain things he should know about, didn't know about, or accusing, I think Kevin Durant of, I don't know the specifics, I can't remember, but anybody that remembers, I believe it was an incident perhaps where Kevin Durant, uh, something that happened where I think he was trying to leave OKC after a playoff loss, and said something, and Stephen A. Smith quoted his sources about Kevin Durant, and Kevin Durant fired back saying you don't, and called him a liar because he said you don't have my phone number. I think something along those lines. I could be wrong exactly what it was, but I do remember the threat that he made on ESPN at Kevin Durant. Now, if you go back even a few years before that, Stephen A. Smith was on and he made some comments about Ray Rice, and our brother Willie D, shout out to him, even talked about it when he was on First Take, and Kerry Champion was the mediator. Skip Bayless, I think, was on there at that time, and he talked about how women should be careful and not instigating a fight. Now, what he was actually saying, I understood that, and I've said this video before. I didn't think he was wrong, and even I remember Whoopi Goldberg even defended him at one point, and she caught flack, and she refused to apologize for it. Finally, she didn't act that same way against Bill Cosby because she defended Cos, and then when the handlers at ABC, same parent company, told her to watch her mouth or retract, Whoopi retracted. Now, with Stephen A., if you remember, after he made those comments, Michelle Beadle, who was the co-host of Get Up, and I think she's even had issues on ESPN. I think they canceled her show because the ratings were so low. Obviously, she had stated in a tweet attacking Stephen A. Smith for his comments, and it started this little hashtag about why I stayed, I believe was the hashtag, and she attacked him. Now, it is against ESPN policy. If you go look it up, coworkers cannot talk about each other, talk bad about each other on social media. And she violated company policy. But it wasn't Michelle Beadle that got punished. It was Stephen A. Smith that got punished for his remarks. He was the one that was punished for saying something that a lot of people do think about. There are women, and I'll just be honest, because I've seen this in the courtroom, I've seen this hundreds of times, and we all know about it. There are women who do start fights. That's just the truth. There are women that use that principle of how a man should never touch a woman. They use that to their advantage where they will assault men. Now, the best thing, and I tell men all the time, the proper thing to do whenever they feel they're being attacked by a woman, the best thing to do is just to walk away at all costs. Now, of course, if she's coming at you with a weapon where she can actually kill you or hurt you, all bets are off. By all means, defend yourself. But certain situations where she's slapping on you and so forth, walk away. And I know with the Ray Rice situation, they had even talked about how there was some unedited footage and more evidence where Ray's wife had even spat on him because they said he spat on her. He spat on she spat on him first. And I remember the Huffington Post quoting that. And, you know, Ray Rice has never been in the NFL. And Stephen A. Smith gets suspended for 2 weeks. And he goes on ESPN First Take and he apologizes and says, I was wrong. I'm sorry. You see, you say anything about white folks, they're going to get in your ass. But you say everything about black folks, they're going to give you a pass. And Stephen A. Smith's gotten a pass with a lot of the talk that he's mentioned about black people. And I remember, and I will post the link up on the 5150 show, how our brother Zoe Williams and Corey Holcomb, how they broke down Stephen A. Smith's comments when he talked about how black players getting arrested in college football, and I have a problem with the black players that get arrested and such and such. And Stephen A. Smith, the problem with his comments on that day, and I remember the video, was that when you quote statistics, when you start getting into the aspects of crime, for instance, remember something. The NCAA is predominantly a black league, as is football, as is basketball. So naturally, if you see black males with arrest records, or you're going to see, you know, them in trouble with the law, that's because, and he's talking about the majority of these players. That's the problem I have with these black players. Well, of course, there's going to be a majority because they are the majority in the league. That's why. It's not because black people are more prone to commit crime. It's because those players, most of them, that league is predominantly black. And we don't know the ins and outs. You can be cited, you can be cited for a multitude of things. Multitude necessarily doesn't mean convicted of. And of course, you know, the main thing, you do want to stay out of trouble, but the fact that you would bring something like that up and try to tie it into the black community is highly and patently offensive. Like you're trying to say we're prone to crimes, or that, you know, I have a problem with this. You did not attack, excuse me, any white athlete the way that you attacked Colin Kaepernick, Stephen A. Smith. And Terrell Owens, to get back on the topic, said, and I'm just paraphrasing, he said that Stephen A. Smith, to be honest, Max Kellerman, his co-host, sounded blacker than him, in which Stephen A. Smith said, wait, you taking it too far. You crossed the line. To me, you've stepped over the line so many times. What did Charlie Murphy say? You're a habitual line stepper with a fucking RoboCop hairline. You know, I've watched Stephen A. Smith get away with a lot of stuff, and I remember, and I was so proud of this brother when he had his show on ESPN, quite frankly, and he had heavy hitters on there. Remember when he had Boyce Watkins, when he did the interview with Dr. Boyce Watkins about his book? I remember him doing the interview with AI. That was even big back then. I remember him doing his interview with, he interviewed Steve Harvey. He would interview Damon Wayans. He had heavy hitters come on his show. They talked about a multitude of things. And I was happy to see a black man in that position, and a black man who's an HBCU graduate at that. But to be honest, he's not that dude that I thought he was, because he's a company man and he's got his money. He's got his $40 million. He's happy. So everything he's doing now, he's just shitting on other people, other athletes. What about the white UFC fighter, War Machine, I believe was his name, that beat the shit out of his woman and raped her and almost killed her? And he's doing life in prison, if I'm not mistaken. Did they ever talk about that on ESPN? Did they talk about Conor McGregor like they did Floyd Mayweather? The things that he's been doing, like throwing a chair at a bus, assaulting a man in a pub? Of course they didn't talk about it like they did Floyd Mayweather. You know, they focused on Floyd Mayweather even during his Pacquiao fight. The talk was about his domestic violence. I never forget Michelle Beadle and Rachel Nichols got banned because they were going up to Floyd Mayweather's camp during his boxing preparation for Pacquiao, bringing this shit up, which is stuff that we already knew. I'm not defending Floyd Mayweather and what he was accused of, but you bringing up old shit that we already knew about because you trying to push some type of leftist agenda. And you can tell when you look at these TV shows, when you listen to these radio shows, how it's set up. You know, they may have a few times they'll have different commentators come on. You have one that's, you know, that counterbalances another, or two that are for something that's very popular that they want to push, and one that's against. You know, you see that now even on ESPN, when they'll have Max Kellerman, and then they'll have Stephen A. Smith, and then they'll bring on Will Kane, his ass, you know, his punk ass on there. And Will Kane, you know, he said some questionable stuff about race. That's why I don't really care about him. But you can tell where they're going with this stuff like this. And so when you have someone like a black person, like a Stephen A. Smith, they're in a position that you and I are not. I can only reach so many people on YouTube and Facebook, you know, so many friends. Whereas Stephen A. Smith, he's got a platform that reaches around the world. ESPN is the worldwide leader in sports. So millions of people watch him at home. And when you say things like, you know, what's Colin Kaepernick doing? This was all a setup. And he even was forced to admit he didn't know all of the facts of it. He got called out even by the school superintendent that held the tryouts. You don't know what the hell you're talking about, and you're talking shit about this man. Now, could Colin Kaepernick have handled it a different way? Yeah, I believe he could have. I'll admit that. I'm a businessman myself. I would not hire anybody that insulted me if they said something along the lines, well, we tried out and we worked out, and tell your owners, you know, to stop running, don't be scared, and things like that. More than likely, I probably wouldn't have fired Colin if he had said something like that. But if I'm in a situation where you look at most teams in the NFL, some of the situations with their quarterbacks, I don't care if you're talking about the Miami Dolphins, I don't care if you're talking about the the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've lost their quarterback. Chicago has struggled. Atlanta is struggling. Carolina is struggling. You know, you got a lot of teams that could use a quarterback, but Kaepernick, realistically, he's been out of the league for 3 years. So I understand that element of it too. But apparently, he's still in his early 30s. He can still throw. I know they brought Jay Cutler's ass out to play for the Miami Dolphins, 2 years ago? And Jay Cutler was god awful. Like, Jay Cutler wasn't even enthused about playing. And sometimes Stephen A. Smith, I'll say this to his credit, he has defended Kaepernick and his right to kneel, but now it seems like he's just saying shut up and play, almost like what and Terrell Owens even said this. It's like the shut up and dribble. And he called Stephen A. Smith out. I got the link to the article in the description. I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna also look for that video with Corey Holcomb. Let me put that up. Hold on a second. Hold on a second, guys. Okay, so they took that video down, but this is a clip from, let's see, the 5150 show. I have this one. Because, you know, Corey Holcomb and Stephen A. had been beefing, and I remember Stephen A. Smith actually went on Roland Martin's show responding to Corey Holcomb. But here's what
hey,
clip
what's
from
going
2
on?
days
You
ago.
know who it is. Pretty much let him have it. He pretty much.
No, this isn't it. Hold on a second.
On site. I want to say this.
All right, this is the 5150.
This is a fact. This is an absolute fact. When the white boy got hit in the head with the helmet, he started to act right. This is an absolute fact. The white boy kept trying to get at him and all that.
About Mason
but
Rudolph.
When he got hit in the head with the motherfucking helmet, he became a model citizen. He did like this. He was like, what's wrong? Why is all this happening? You see what he did? And then some other brother from the Browns knocked him down. He didn't try to go after him either. Because he wanted to play the victim white boy role. When you own a team in the NFL, I know all you NFL players know this. You're not all treated the same.
Right about that.
If you get in a fight with a white boy on your team, you will be treated differently than when you get in a fight with somebody black on your team. Somebody said, oh, a helmet. I don't want to see the boy get his head bust wide open on national TV. But Stephen A. Smith, your bitch ass, no, ain't no rules in a fight. Nigga, when it's on, it's on. That's why motherfuckers shouldn't fight.
Right, it's not a set-up boxing match, professional or whatever. It's like go ham. It's just go for broke.
That's in any motherfucking hood or urban situation in America. If you fighting, all this shit count. But Stephen A. Smith is trying to act like the white boy is a victim of some niggas on the football field. You really are victims of when you black. You can't even hit the motherfucker. This motherfucker, Stephen A. Smith, had the nerve to say he wouldn't do Tom Brady like that. I believe he would do Tom Brady like that if Tom Brady was trying to fight him. What the fuck is going on in the world? All them cool nigga sportscasters was saying he should be suspended for the rest of the year and next year. Because he got this motherfucker up off him? I don't understand.
They look at the end result. They look at the end result. They don't look at the cause. They look at the effect. And that's unfortunate. So the end result is brother did.
All right. Well, that's just a little brief clip of what Corey was talking about. But he went further when he was talking about Stephen A. Smith. I'm not going to play the rest of it. Hold on. Most of that incident with Mason Rudolph and Myles Garrett, and this is another thing with Stephen A. Smith, they were calling for the fact that he should be suspended for the rest of the year, meaning Myles Garrett. When everyone looked at the video, Max Kellerman, who is white and Jewish, and Max Kellerman, believe it or not, was a rapper, back in the early 90s. He actually was the one that not defending Myles Garrett's actions, but he thought Mason Rudolph was just as guilty for what he did. And Stephen A. Smith was the one, if you remember watching that clip, you could go on ESPN and look at it on their YouTube channel. He was the one that actually said Max Kellerman was crazy. Or, something must be wrong with you the day that you would actually say that. Basically saying, I don't care that he started it. He should get suspended for the rest of the year. Well, Myles Garrett recently has come out and said that he was called a racial epithet by Mason Rudolph. And I don't know exactly what was said. And, that was obviously supposed to be sealed, not closed off to the public by the NFL, because the players appealed. When they appealed their cases before I believe James Thrash is the one former wide receiver who hears those appeals. They will talk and they will listen to everything, and those are confidential, but yet they let it leak out. Just like with the Ray Rice incident, Ray Rice had already admitted to the NFL, to the commissioner, Roger Goodell, he had hit his wife, and he admitted what he did was wrong. And Goodell, based off the fact that Ray Rice spoke to him and the fact that Ray Rice's wife asked the NFL commissioner to be lenient on him. She did do this. He gave him just 2 games. Now, when they saw the actual video in the elevator, everybody just went nuts. And then you had this, stuff where they're pushing against domestic violence. No, this shouldn't happen. Everything is basically, it's like the Belko experiment, where they try to get the public to indoctrinate. I'm not saying that domestic, and let me be clear, I'm not saying that those aren't important movements, but I do believe that, yes, certain individuals, in particular certain organizations that are very rich and powerful, they do try to get the public latched onto a certain agenda that they want to push. That I do believe, that I do know that does happen. We even talked about it with our brother, Judge Joe Brown, when he discussed how he was on air and how they wanted him to say certain things to try and push to a certain demographic and to attract a certain demographic. So they do things like that. But yeah, Stephen A. Smith got, of course, got exposed by Terrell Owens. And Max Kellerman even said during the course of the clip, and it's better, let me just play you the clip of what happened with Terrell Owens and Stephen A. Smith. But a lot of people were upset about what he stated. But I'm talking about what Stephen A. Smith said. It's about a 6-minute clip. Here it is.
2 black men are up here. In your case, you're defending Colin Kaepernick now. In my case, I've defended Colin Kaepernick on numerous occasions throughout the years. I'm talking about the Mike Wilbons, the James Browns, and everybody in between. Black folks all over the country, all in the media. Everybody speaking up on behalf of Colin Kaepernick, but Colin Kaepernick. You're the one person that doesn't have anything to say. You step aside while brothers and sisters who know that you were right to want to address police brutality, who know that you were right to want to address racial oppression, who know when you say that you didn't deserve to be blackballed and you didn't deserve to have your cause politicized. All of us are fighting on behalf of you, but you are the one that won't speak up for yourself. Do you have a problem with that?
Well, I think the thing is, in the black community, like I said, I'm in the streets. I hear what's going on.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
The thing is, I think, Stephen A., you have a platform. It's okay to disagree, but it was the way you were going about it. It was almost like you were attacking him. And I think the thing with Colin Kaepernick and the way that things shifted right at the doorstep of this workout is just the transparency. You alluded to the document. As that related, I mean, as I was referring to it with the document, the waiver, again, like I said, when you insert language into something that's not standard, then obviously you have to take time to review those documents. And like I said, they weren't given adequate time to do that. And so to now insert that and then think that he was going to sign it right at the doorfront, then that's not fair. You giving him, if you're going to give him a fair workout, then give him a fair workout. He was allowed no media access. They were trying to dictate who his receivers were.
I have to stop you there. I have to stop you there. I am on the air right now listening to a Hall of Famer who I believe has had a multitude of opportunities to highlight unfairness that has been exacted from him. Did that stop you from accepting the challenge, knowing that you were walking into situations that were flagrantly unfair, that you were operating behind the 8 ball at a disadvantage, courtesy of a system and an entity that obviously had a lot of power and influence to compromise whatever your aspirations were? You do it, I do it. There are people that sit up there. You ain't the only one that accused me of attacking him. I would ask you to recall what I said. What I said is that I have been supporting this man. What I didn't support was you sending, not you, meaning him, sending the message that everything has to be ideal and everything has to be fair in order for me to embrace the challenge to acquire what I have been behind the scenes through my camp telling everybody I want. If you don't want to work out, that's fine. If you think it's unfair, and I know Max, you want to get in.
He did work out.
And you want to. If you don't think
stop right there. I got to stop it for a second. He says he didn't want to work out. Remember something, and a lot of people don't know this, and even Stephen A. had to find this out. The workout was removed because there were waivers that were in the agreement that wasn't a standard agreement that they wanted Colin Kaepernick to sign, and Colin refused to do that, and that was done at the advice of his attorneys. and the advice of his staff. They also, and no part of what was in that agreement, I believe, and what they've been speculating, or what has been stated, is that it was to waive any right that he had in filing any particular lawsuit against the NFL. Now, specifically, I'm going to play the video again, but I checked out an article. Let's see here. This is from Newsweek. ESPN reporter says it would be malpractice for Colin Kaepernick to sign waivers sent by the NFL. Says here, if Colin Kaepernick had signed the waiver sent by the NFL, it would have been considered malpractice. ESPN writer Howard Bryant said on ESPN's First Take. So he broke down and told Stephen A. Smith why it was would be malpractice if he did. When you are talking about this, everything, and I think when you go into a negotiation, you're not expected to give up all your rights, Brian said. The waiver that Brian is talking about has caused a large problem surrounding Kaepernick's workout with the NFL. Before his workout, the NFL sent Kaepernick a liability waiver. Instead of signing the waiver, Kaepernick and his lawyers revised and created their own waiver that they sent back to the NFL. The NFL said that the waiver that Kaepernick was asked to sign on Saturday is essentially the same one he'd have to sign to work out for a team during the season. However, NBC Sports Pro Football Talk was able to obtain the waiver sent to Kaepernick and described it as being very different from the one that the NFL typically sends to its players who work out for a team. Brian pointed out that one of the major problems in the NFL waiver sent to Kaepernick is that it required the free agent to acknowledge that there was no promise of employment, and Kaepernick understands that his participation in the workout does not constitute employment. Okay, I can understand that. But let's also look at that aspect of it. But here's further. According to TMZ, Kaepernick was also worried about a provision that said, in consideration of the opportunity to participate in the workout, player releases the NFL from all liability arising out of, occurring during, or related directly or indirectly to the workout. That, Brian said, is what Kaepernick's lawyers called malpractice, because from Kaepernick's perspective, signing the waiver would remove his right to pursue a legal claim against the NFL if teams expressed a desire to keep him out of the league. Remember, he filed a collusion suit with the NFL just this past year, and that case was settled. Now, realistically, let's be honest, Colin Kaepernick is not suffering from homelessness. He's not living on the street. He's going to be surviving just nicely. He's got to deal with Nike. So realistically, he's not out of money. He's out of a job. Yes, he's not playing. And technically speaking, when you're in, when you want a job, when you want to play for the NFL or NBA, whatever job you want to be, if you want to be an attorney, if you want to be a garbage man, that's or a doctor, if you want to be a web designer, you want to be a graphic designer, those are not necessarily rights, those are privilege. Being an attorney for me is a privilege. And of course, those privileges can be taken away if they found the Bar Association of the state of Louisiana found I did something unethical, or they did some type of disciplinary action. And that even happens even in real estate commissions. Doctors, they get sued all the time for things. So those types of things do take place. They get, well, not just so much sued, but they get disciplined. That does happen if they violate something. So I can understand that. I understand it's not a privilege for Kaepernick it's not a right that Kaepernick plays in the NFL. It is a privilege. But what the people are saying is that for a organization that has majority black players on there, how does it look when someone is standing up for their rights, for the rights of their people, are his personal beliefs in how America has treated black men and these white wealthy owners, coincidentally called owners, speaks down on them. Jerry Jones said something about, well, I think Kaepernick's something bad about Kaepernick's workout. I think he was just a distraction. And remember Bob McNair, the owner of the Houston Texans, saying we can't have the inmates run the prison, which was highly offensive to many of the players. And then they tried to get the black player to speak in defense of the owner. You have these, what's interesting is that the NFL every year in the month of October, they will raise breast cancer awareness. Every November, they do things for the military. Remember, too, the NFL has a contract agreement with the Department of Defense to promote patriotism, paid patriotism, basically. And I even remember Stephen A. Smith a few years ago broke that down. You see, he talks back and forth. So let me finish playing the clip. I want you to hear more of what T.O. had to say.
Fair, that's fine. And you want to get your lawyer, and your lawyer wants to stand up there and say, this waiver is an issue. We are ready to work out, but not until they alter this waiver, etc. That's different. But to not do the workout, to change locations, and then to go and give a speech to the media without taking any questions, any inquiry as to what's really going on, you are leaving others to surmise what the hell happened.
Can I answer
and I don't
that
think
real
that's
quick?
fair.
Do you mind if I jump in, Tio?
Yes, before you do that, but
go ahead.
What I want is transparency, Stephen A. And that's like I've done it. I've had incidents throughout the course of my career, and then there have been times where I've gone into interviews where I've done an hour and a half, 2 hours of an interview, and then they break down and they edit, and then you guys get on the show, and there's a panel of people, and then they break down whatever clips that they show. They're not showing the entire hour and a half or 2 hours of that interview that I've done. So what he wanted was transparency for people to see the full workout, to see the full Colin Kaepernick. Again, you mentioned obviously Max is going to get in here. Like I said, I'm in the streets. Max almost seems blacker than you, Stephen A. with what he's coming, with his commentary.
With all due respect, my brother.
I'm just saying, dog.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna check you right now. You don't cross the line.
I'm just saying.
Wait a minute. You don't cross the line. First of all, like I said, you, Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed, any of y'all that want to debate me in front of black people and talk about what's best for black people, name the time and place, I'll show up. I don't want to hear, what's the definition of blackness? Is there a definitive definition of blackness? Why are you giving the impression that because I don't march lockstep with every single thing that Colin Kaepernick wants? Okay, excuse me. Hold on,
I'm not agreeing.
Wait a minute.
I'm not agreeing with everything that Colin Kaepernick has done.
I'm not saying that, but you said, you just sat up there and used an expression, more blacker. Excuse me, from Hollis, Queens, New York City. You ain't the only brother out there that's in the streets. I'm in the streets every day.
I get it.
And so let's be very clear. And you damn well know that's the truth. And so my point to you is this. Again, I'm not going to disrespect you. I'm not going to go that route. But based on just what you just said, this is supposedly Stephen A. and T.O. going at one another. Did you know that I invited Colin Kaepernick to give him this platform for the entire 2 hours? I said, you can edit the damn show. You can have it live. We can talk whatever you want to talk. The floor is yours. I also gave that invitation to Eric Reed. I know people at other networks that has given Colin Kaepernick that same thing. They disagreed with him to some degree. Are you questioning their blackness too? Come on, man. There's certain things that's crossing the line.
Dude, I mean, you're taking it as disrespect. There's no disrespect.
There's no disrespect to that?
No, dude. It's tongue in cheek, but at the same time, like I said, I'm in the streets. Like I said, I hear what's going on. And as I said, you don't have to agree. I don't totally agree with some of the things that as I texted you the other day. He could have articulated or expressed his thoughts better than he did in the interview.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.
All right. So, yeah, I didn't mean to hear that last subscribe announcement. Okay, so y'all heard that. And he took offense to what T.O. was saying. But what was T.O. saying wrong? I don't think what T.O. was saying was wrong. A lot of people feel that way about Stephen A. Smith. And let us not forget too, again, he is a anchor on the worldwide leader in sports. So he should know his facts. It should be expected that someone that has the experience that Stephen A., because he always talks about how I'm the best reporter in the league. He comes off real arrogant. I do this and do that. I got all this stuff down. I know what I'm talking about. He comes off like that all the time. And he didn't know about the waiver the NFL sent to him. He even not looking at the waiver. Look at the fact also that the NFL sent the workout request to Colin Kaepernick on a Thursday to work out that Saturday on such short notice. And keep in mind, the NFL, their work days are on Sundays. So what NFL coaches would be present at a scout, at a workout session? Yeah, they'll have scouts there that'll speak for them and be there, but the coaches would not be there because it's standard. Usually those workouts take place in the middle of the week, not the weekend. So a lot of people think it was rigged. Exactly, JK. It was rigged from the start. They had no intentions of signing Colin Kaepernick. They did this as a way to give Colin Kaepernick, not so much Colin Kaepernick, but to make the NFL look good. Like, well, we tried him out, we worked out, but we just don't think there's no place for him. Now, I've heard that there are teams that are interested in signing him. And you know what? There's a possibility of that, then fine. I know that before he left Frisco, and remember, he did opt out of his contract with San Francisco 49ers. Seattle was considering taking, I never forget that. But at any rate, Stephen A. Smith, your black card. Hold on a second. My connection's unstable. Anyone hear me? Stephen A. Smith's black card apparently will be torn up by the black delegation. Max Kellerman will get invited, I guess, to the cookout. He will get an honorary black card. That's what people are saying. I never even liked Max Kellerman as an anchor. I don't know if you've seen him on HBO Sports with his boxing analysis. I thought he was awful, but he actually makes more sense than what Stephen A. does. So, anyway, guys, my battery's about to die on me, but I just wanted to go over that. And with this Myles Garrett situation, I don't know if that guy, Mason Rudolph, called him an N-word, but you saw the way that Myles Garrett reacted. He was certainly pissed off by something. You would think by the way that Mason Rudolph acted. And, of course, Mason Rudolph was the one that instigated everything by taking off his helmet. I would hope Myles Garrett is not lying that this man called him. It wasn't saying what he called. He didn't say what he called him. He just said a racial epithet. It could have. I heard yesterday, I think Willie D said it could have been black bastard or whatever he said. Obviously he was highly pissed, but I thought it was from the fact that Rudolph was trying to take off his helmet. And they focus, as Brothers O. Williams stated, they focus on the end result and not the cause and effect, and not the entirety of the situation. They're always going to look at what you did. If he didn't start any, won't be any. Yeah. So anyway, guys, y'all enjoy the rest of your week. If you can, subscribe to the channel. If you can, please donate. to my Cash App, Gavin Richard Esquire, my Google Pay, gavin.grich1@gmail.com. I'm going to post the ESPN, the Newsweek article. This is from me, and they quote Howard Bryan, who was on First Take, and gave some facts to Stephen A. Smith. But Stephen A. Smith, I really think we should just stop watching ESPN in general, not just because of Stephen A. Smith, but because ESPN has a history of basically treating black guests, especially like what they did with LeVar Ball, like crap. Molly Rose, who is Jalen Rose's wife, basically played a female victim card when LeVar Ball was on there. So you guys just shout out. Thank you all for joining the channel. We'll be back. Peace. Boycott other networks. Fox Sports is, well, I know they got Jason Whitlock, but Fox Sports is better with Shannon Sharp. Although I saw somebody told me Shannon puts on his tap shoes a couple of times. I don't know about that, but we'll see. Anyway, guys, that's it. Y'all have a good one, okay? Thank you.